because in Genesis chapter 1, we see that the earth is made is already in a chaotic condition. We went through numerous scriptures to show you that we need to turn on the air in here.
Amen.
What? Okay, 50 lashes with the wet noodle. All right. So we've been trying to explain the disappearance of dinosaurs and stuff like that, how there were giants in the land, ancient megalithic structures, because most Christians and most churches do not teach some of the mysteries of the world. But I believe that anything that we face on this planet, the answers are in the Bible. Okay? And so that's just me. Tell somebody next to you, Pastor's always right. Wow, some of you participated. Thank you. You may get an extra portion of meatballs. All right. Aren't they good? All right. So what we're going to do is we're going to find Genesis now in the book of Job. So we're going to turn to page 70 if you have a study guide. If you don't have a study guide, please let us know. We'll try to get one into your hands, and we're going to go from there. So we talked about what's called anti-chaotic age. What does that mean? A-N-T-E, chaotic age.
Not chaotic.
Before the chaos. Okay, so where do we get chaos? In Genesis chapter 1. In the beginning, God created the heavens and the earth. Verse 2, and the earth was without form and void. Form and void is the Hebrew terminology. Bohu and tohu means it was a chaotic stage. The problem is in the word and. In the ancient Hebrew, the word and should actually be became. The earth became chaotic, and we showed you multiple scriptures that God never creates chaos and then goes, oops, I need to go back and fix this. Okay? So we see that there are two floods, planet-wide floods on the planet. Number one, Genesis chapter 1 is what's called Lucifer's flood. And we went through all the scriptures concerning that in Isaiah 14, how there were civilizations and kingdoms and sanctuaries and a type of humanoid people living in existence that time that Lucifer actually destroyed. If you saw the movie Noah with Russell Crowe, it was not the biblical version. A lot of people had a problem with that because it wasn't Bible, but it was out of the book of Enoch, and it was accurate according to the book of Enoch. Okay? The book of Enoch was a book that is in the Bible. It is no longer in what's called our Protestant Bible. The church fathers took it out because for whatever reason they had. If you go to some other countries, third world nations, they still have the book of Enoch in there, as well as the book of Jasher, Jubilees, and some of the others. So we just kind of pick and choose our religion. That's what everybody does. Now, according to what we saw and what we've learned so far, is we saw that there was Lucifer led a rebellion against heaven. He got kicked out of heaven. He got banished to the earth. And that caused a universal flood. It destroyed everything. And in Genesis chapter 1 in our Bible, we see a reconstruction, not an actual creation. Because when you read Genesis chapter 1, it says let there be, let there be, let there be. Let is a permissive word. It's giving something permission to return that was once there already. Okay, then around verse 26 it says that God created great well. So there's a difference between the word create. There's a difference between the word let, where God is giving permission. We also went into Genesis and we showed that some of the stuff was pre-existent. It was already in the earth because God told the earth, let it bring forth herb-yielding fruit and so forth. Okay, so we covered all that. And so now we're going to look at some of the pre-existence in the book of Job. There's some very difficult scriptures in the book of Job. Most people have never read the book of Job. The book of Job is the oldest book in the Bible. Okay? But the book of Job talks about a lot of pre-existing conditions before Lucifer's flood in Genesis chapter 1. I want to give you a disclaimer. Do not take my word for it. Take notes and examine it for yourself. Draw your own conclusions. We do ask this. If we disagree, that doesn't mean we have to get a divorce. If we disagree, we just simply disagree. Is that true?
Yes.
And remember, as Americans, you have a right to be wrong. So, your oh, really? Okay. So, please take notes and examine these things and see if they're true for yourself. So, let's go find out some pre-existent conditions in the book of Job. In the book of Job, chapter 38, verse 1, King James Version, God is getting into a debate with Job. And it says this, and the Lord answered Job out of the whirlwind, we're on page 70, Okay, those of you who have a letter edition, maybe a page or two away. He answered him out of a whirlwind and said, "Who is this that darkeneth counsel by words without knowledge?" You know what that's saying? You ever meet somebody who likes to argue with you, but they don't know what the heck they're talking about? That's what God is dealing. He's dealing with Job here. You're sitting there, you're arguing with me, but you have no idea what you're talking about. And remember, when people do that, they're hoping that you'll be ignorant enough to just fall to their trap. Now notice this. Okay, gird up thy loins. Okay, what does that mean? Get your emotions under check too. Gird up your loins also means put on your sword belt. Okay, and bucklers. Everybody know what a buckler is? They're arm guards for when using a sword. Okay, gird up your loins like a man. Now God is really calling Job out. Okay, you know you're such a tough guy. Let's go ahead and go at it. All right, and I will demand of thee the answers. And answer thou me. So God is saying, okay, you go. You want to ask me some questions. I'm going to ask you some questions. And this is what science is still doing today. We thank God for science. We thank God for scientific breakthrough. But you have to understand what we've studied so far, at the risk of sounding like a conspiracy theory. And God said, okay, Lord, open up his eyes so he can see that we're not alone. Amen. So God removed the scales from his eyes, and all of a sudden he saw in the realm of the spirit that coexisted in the realm of the material. And there were chariots and so forth, and angels and so forth. So he's telling them, okay, you want to go at it? And God is saying, I'll come down to your level. Let's go man to man. All right, let's look in Job 38, verse 4. Where wast thou when I laid the foundations of the earth? Declare thou, if thou know it, if thou have understanding. So the first of many things that are going to highlight about the pre-Adamic race is going to be found in the book of Job. Number one, God laid a foundation. Okay, notice this in verse 5. Who hath laid the measures thereof? Okay, if thou knowest, or who has stretched the line upon it. So he's talking about creating the earth. There's a foundation. What does that mean? Someplace on the planet, it's where God decided to make the planet, to create the planet. When you have a foundational stone, what is a foundational stone? It's the first stone. So who is the foundational stone? Jesus. So he's saying, I built this planet based upon the word. Jesus is the foundational stone. All right, now let's go a little bit further. He said, can you measure it? So what is he talking about, the measuring and so forth? He's talking about, can you measure the size of the earth? Okay? And then it says, can you determine the lines? The lines would be longitudinal lines and the latitudinal lines. So God put these lines that we use today for travel and everything else already into existence. How many of you know there's a north and then there's a true north?
Yes.
Okay, when you're going north down the highway, you're not really going north, you're going several degrees off of north. There's true north. All right, and I learned that when I was taking flying lessons. Now, the book of Job, chapter 38, verse 6. Whereupon are the foundations, okay, thereof fastened? Or who laid the cornerstone, okay, thereof? So what's God saying? The earth, okay, does not have a foundation as far as a pedestal is concerned. It just hangs in the middle of space. How? Has nothing to do with gravitational pull, has nothing to do with anything like that. It's because God said it there. So let's take some scientific things and let's see if they make actual sense. We are told that there's a possibility that the earth was a result of a Big Bang. We are told that there's a possibility that the moon was because of some collisions of meteorites and a chunk broke off and it landed perfectly in the Earth's orbits in order to govern tides and tidal waves and everything else. We've also been taught that the Earth was just something floating in space and it became fixed in one place. Is that true? How many of y'all heard stuff like that?
Oh, yeah.
Okay, so if that's what we believe about the Earth, how do we explain all the other planets that are in existence?
Right.
That they all just happen to have an